Hey, thanks for stopping by. This is Victor with the StereoUntypical. If you're anything like me, you love the Marvel movies. Marvel Comics has been popular for decades, and the recent success of the Marvel movies have introduced old characters to a new generation of viewers. A little bit over a year ago, a popular YouTube channel, Nado V Movies, gathered several YouTube content creators to take on the task of examining scenes from their favorite Marvel movies. And it was dope. Many of the creators took the time to highlight personal, social, and cinematic significance of one scene that stood out to them. So, 1 year late, with no invitation,
who's speaking?
I figure I should take some time to add my contribution. I'm going to be talking about the apprehension of Zemo in Captain America Civil War. To get us started, I wanted to give a little context. The Captain America movies have been some of my favorite Marvel movies to date, specifically The Winter Soldier and Civil War. I loved the fight choreography, the action, but more importantly, I just appreciated the depth and the humanization that was given to Captain America. Both of the movies showed us the best and the worst of Steve Rogers. The loyal soldier out of time became the man desperate to save his friend. So, to set the scene, at this point in the MCU, the Avengers were being held accountable for their avenging, and probably all of the collateral damage. As a result, the Sokovia Accords are written, and the Avengers are left with a choice that splits them down the middle. Sign the Accords and submit to international government oversight, or don't, and be handled as international criminals. So, unable to come to a unanimous decision, the Avengers began avenging each other and pre-avenging. Yeah, this was just straight up criminal activity. All of this leads up to the final act of the movie, where Zemo comes face to face with Steve, Tony, and Bucky. And he's all like, I knew if I pulled the right nerves, you would fall apart and fight each other at an airport. Then miraculously come back together and come here with no one to back you up or hold you accountable. Yeah, he doesn't sound like that. Don't get me wrong, I love the action that unfolds in this scene. It's tense and it's dramatic. But the scene that I'm here to talk to you about is the scene that surprised me. And that's Zemo's actual apprehension that came from a character that was not the lead in this movie, T'Challa. And I'm sure if you're watching this video, you know the score. T'Challa is introduced alongside of his father, T'Chaka. His father gets killed. Everyone thinks Bucky did it, including T'Challa. Especially T'Challa. And it's made very clear that T'Challa plans to do some avenging of his own.
How long do you think you can keep your friends safe from me?
And I mean, he's cold, callous, and just unrelenting in his pursuit of Bucky. I mean, this is the guy he believes killed his father. So, leading up to the final act of the movie, he tails Iron Man to the facility where the final reveal happens. Interestingly enough, he observes the outbreak of the final conflict, and he chooses not to engage. Instead, he's like, yo, I'm gonna confront Zemo real quick. And what's interesting to me here is his approach to Zemo was different than his approach to Bucky. He takes the opportunity to get face to face with his father's killer, fully capable of striking him down and leaving him in the cold as an afterthought. However, he makes a choice. He takes off his helmet, the symbol of his title, and he acknowledges his own faults.
I almost killed the wrong man.
In a way, painting a commonality between Zemo and himself. He even takes a moment to dig a little bit deeper into Zemo's rationale, asking,
This is all you wanted? To see them rip each other apart?
Without pause, Zemo shares his pain, the nightmare that he's been living, and his personal villainous inception, which apparently is Ultron's attack on Sokovia, which killed his father, wife, and children. What I think is important here is, in this moment, T'Challa seems to recognize Zemo's pain. And as the audience, if there ever was a moment where we sympathized with Zemo, is here. It's this moment where his emotions that he's experiencing are not that different from Tony's or T'Challa's. He's experienced great loss at the hands of someone else. Side note, Chadwick Boseman's ability to subtly portray emotions goes a long way in this scene. It's this moment that leads into a big moment for T'Challa. For the first time in the movie, T'Challa actually takes on the mantle of hero, retracting his claws and stating my favorite line in the entirety of the MCU. Vengeance has consumed you, it's consuming them, and I'm done letting it consume me. If you think about it, this sentiment goes a long way for T'Challa, potentially fueling some of his more passive choices that he will make in his own movie, sparing Killmonger, sparing Ulysses Klaue.
Every breath you take is mercy from me.
That's all another story for another time. But I absolutely love this moment, and I wasn't expecting to see it. And that's not a shot at Marvel or Disney. The Black Panther simply was a supporting character in this movie. This was a big hero moment packaged in a very small scene in a movie not about this character. However, Zemo's not touched by any of this. He writes T'Challa's words off,
Tell that to the dead.
puts his gun to his chin, attempting to take his own life, absolving himself of any consequences and seemingly relieving himself of his pain. But in one swift motion, the hero steps in, absorbing the impact with his vibranium woven suit, delivering a chilling reminder.
The living are not done with you yet.
This effectively saved Zemo from himself and created an opportunity to hold him accountable for his actions. So, what's so marvelous about that? Personally, I think this scene puts forth an idea that heroic triumph is not always seen in the big battles we fight outside, but the battles that we fight within. Our ability to set aside personal slights or trauma in order to halt greater conflict in the pursuit of peace is still indeed heroic. And I think that's something that the main characters in this movie were unable to do in this instance. With this movie being an introduction to the Black Panther, I was truly blown away by the depth of character that was put on display. Chadwick Boseman's portrayal of T'Challa was dynamic, and more importantly, I think it was dignified. It almost goes without saying that some of the most popular Marvel characters have risen to their positions based off of their respective audiences, seeing reflections of themselves in these idealistic characters. The Black Panther, the rich, unapologetic warrior ninja king from a fictional nation of Wakanda, that was no doubt intended to captivate Black audiences. And without giving a history lesson, it's easy to draw parallels between the loss and the anger T'Challa experienced losing his father unjustly to the long list of civil issues people of color around the world have faced. And I like that this movie takes a moment to show that the pursuit of righteousness in the midst of your own pain can be a universal pursuit. That pursuit can lead to peace and fulfillment, whereas the latter leads you to destroy and be destroyed. And I think that's a sentiment that the American people should hold on to right now. Some are probably going to say, oh, don't be too political. But honestly, politics is a part of human existence, and it will always be reflected in our media, whether you recognize it or not. So it's now 2021. Our world has experienced a plague, and our country is seemingly divided to its core. So whether it be the pain of loss from unjust causes or feelings of isolation due to social or political alignment, forward towards righteousness is almost always the more dignified path. And it's not always an easy path. Many times it will require you to leave something that feels valuable behind. For some, that may be vengeance. For others, that may be ideals. However, I truly believe that the pursuit of righteousness holds a level of peace more valuable than any of those things that we could have let go to achieve it. Adding an additional 2 cents, this may be unpopular opinion, but I truly hope that the creative minds at Disney and Marvel recognize more concepts like this in the stories they tell. Personally, I would be okay with seeing T'Challa recast, and that's no disrespect to the late Chadwick Boseman. I think he was a phenomenal actor, and I truly believe that his legacy of integrity and dignity will live on. However, the character he portrayed and the ideas that the character has grown to represent are still truly valuable, and I do believe that they can live on in new and reimagined stories. So yeah, that's the scene that stood out to me, and some ideas you didn't ask for. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts about it. Thanks for hanging in there to the end if you made it. If you've enjoyed this video and are interested in more content like it, feel free to stick around and subscribe to the channel. This is Victor with the StereoUntypical. Live forever forward. Peace.